Hello peeps, it's the Hillbilly Halfwit today, and what we're going to talk about today is the modern day new religion of eco-fascism. Now, we have a modern religion like the Moomins, like those cult religions that they had when in my teens. They were all bopping themselves off and poisoning everybody. That is what we have got. We've got a modern equivalent. We have uh, academic people filling young people's heads with cult-like nonsense that the world is going to end. And they will do anything. And they're not allowed, they're filling their head to say, do not question the authority because the authority is always right. Even though that baler behind me is red, that is blue. And I'm telling you that, and don't you ever ask that again. That is what is going on in the world, especially the Western world. Younger generations are being taught not to question the narrative because they make you scared. They want to scare you into saying, I better not say that. And we saw it all in the COVID. The COVID pandemic, we saw it all. Friends, people you know well, turned into absolute lunatics. Even if you mentioned anything that you knew was right and they knew was right, mouth closed, turned, walked away, because you know. They know you're right. They do not want to question it, in case that big foot comes on your head and squashes you. It's very much like that old advert where you went on the zebra crossing years ago and a big hand came from out of the air and picked you up and said, you cannot do that. Now that's the kind of place we're in. We're in a place where, and I don't blame the people that are going to university, I blame the people that are feeding them this nonsense. We've got an academia that are basically, well, about 20 years ago, there was a guy called the Unabomber, and he was blowing up stuff in the United States. He was basically enemy number one. And he was making these things. Nobody could find him for years and years, and they eventually found him. He was out in the middle of nowhere in a little hut making these bombs out of wood. And so nobody could trace him back, but they found him. Anyway, after they found him, they got this big manifesto. And this manifesto was what he wanted with the world. Now, this is the thing nobody says much. You can go and see all about this on Netflix. It's still up there. Most of the academic media agreed with that manifesto. They don't like to admit it, but pretty much all of the media, the academia, agreed with that manifesto. Basically want to shut down all of the Western world's businesses. They don't care about the jobs of the poor in society because they're still getting their bucks off the state. That's what's going on. We have a state. In the UK, we've got a state. We've got the state behind everything. They are giving people pay rises who do the right thing. They're giving them 100 grand salaries to stand around inventing something. You'll have a guy that will be invented to come out and check your chickens. And if he comes out and he finds that you've got one chicken more, they'll put you in prison. That's the kind of thing is going on. With this pox, it'll be the same. They are getting people so scared to question a narrative, it's unbelievable. Now, the only way you turn this around is by thinking for yourself and fighting back against it. It's happening in farming. They're trying to tell people that cattle are killing the planet when you've got 4 or 5 million people in London consuming everything and flying everywhere and driving everywhere. The cattle in the UK have been the same amount pretty much since the early 1700s. Sheep, there's about 1 million more sheep, but they're pretty much all the same. If you go to America, the bison, there was the same amount of cattle now as there were bison. And from what I understand, there's more horses than cattle in the USA that people ride. These people are feeding you false information, and if you don't agree with it, you are a bad person. You can't question it. And I noticed on YouTube yesterday when I was looking around too, I've got to be careful how I say this. You know that war that's happening, not in Israel, the other one? If you mention that war, your video will be demonetized. Now, you know what I mean? It says it in clear red banner on top of my YouTube studio. You cannot mention it. Sorry, the wind's coming now. These people are censoring speech. It's what their objective is. The civil service nutcases, I've never seen it so bad. I think that communism has infiltrated our civil service to the extent that it's going to bring the West down if we're not careful. And there's nothing you can do. The only way you can do anything is voting for different parties who aren't in this stuff. And the only one currently is Farage. And like him or not, even if you hate him, the other parties are all involved in this. They've placed them in all over the world. Tony Blair Society has got most of his operatives already in power. That woman that was in New Zealand, she was basically one of his, what do you call them, students. It's mad. It is mad. Well, that's a bit of a Gaza rant. I got to say, I didn't start off as a rant, but this eco-fascism is the same. I'm noticing it where I live. They're trying to currently close down a school. Not a school, sorry, a hospital, through lack of money. And then I noticed in the next town, they're spending millions on traffic calming measures that nobody wants. They're stopping libraries. They're trying to shut down loads of swimming pools in mid-Wales. And they're spending, Powys County Council is spending 100 million on a climate budget. 100 million. And then they're cutting down on hospitals and the NHS. People, you need to wake up to all this. Get these councillors. Catch them out in it. When they say anything, what's this budget? What's this climate budget? Every time we see one of these Welsh ministers, what's this 4.8 million climate budget? Why aren't you spending on the NHS? That's what needs to happen. People need to wake up. People are getting to the point where they're afraid. It was a bit like where I said the COVID. A few people mentioned below. People were getting, the trouble with the Stasi was they got their friends and family to dob them in. And that's what happened during COVID. And these people realised this. So you've got a person sitting next to you in the living room and you say something against it, next thing you know, bang, you're reported. That was actually happening in Scotland. And I remember Jeremy Vile was actually encouraging children to report their parents at the blooming dinner table during that thing. So I don't know how this video got to this, but that's where it is. The eco-fascists and convid lunatics. Stand up to it all. Don't let them win. We are still here. We're not giving up. Don't fill your heads all with this nonsense. And if you see them going down that road, tell them to investigate it for themselves and don't listen to all this nonsense. Please comment, rate and subscribe. All the best, Gaz.